All right, good morning. My name is Chasen Ishii, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd like to now call to order the April 3rd, 2024 at-large authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. And the time is now 9:02.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's at-large board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The HCDA communications staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clearer audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. It is important that all individuals clearly state their name each time prior to speaking. This is a public, in-person, and virtual meeting, so to prevent any distractions, if you are attending virtually and you are not a board member, staff member, or HCDA's Attorney General, please turn off your video during the meeting. If you wish to provide oral testimony and you are attending virtually, please indicate so by clicking the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. If you are attending in person, you will be called to the front of the room in the order that you signed up. All testimony will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Your testimony must be related to an item on the agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. When 1 minute is remaining, 1 minute remains will be called out. And when 30 seconds is remaining, 30 seconds remain will be called out. When time has elapsed, time will be called out, after which you will have 30 seconds to conclude your testimony, and then your audio will be turned off. If you are attending in person, the presiding officer will call the next testifier. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. If the authority's connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you. Chair.
ACDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect the following members are present. Vice Chair Higa.
Present.
Secretary Apo.
Present.
Member Miranda Johnson.
Present.
Member Anderson.
Present.
Member Straits.
Present.
Member Blystone. Excuse. Member Evans.
Present.
Member Suji. Member Suji. Excuse. Member Sakura.
Present.
Member Ray.
Excuse me, coming late.
Member Leong.
Present.
And Member Light.
Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted to provide their testimony respectively. Item number 1, regular meeting minutes of March 6, 2024. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? If there are no comments or questions, the minutes are approved as presented. Item number 2, shall the authority established pursuant to section 92-2.5B1 Hawaii Revised Statutes a permitted interaction group for the purpose of 1, conducting the executive director's annual performance review, and 2, establishing the director's new 1, 2, and 3-year goals accordingly, amend the agency's strategic plan adopted by the authority on September 6, 2023 General Authority meeting. HCDA Executive Director Nakamoto will now provide the report.
Thank you, Chair. Board members, the staff report for this item is in tab 2 of your packets. It's hard to believe that a year has gone by and we're forming another pig for purpose of my annual review. This is the annual executive director's review and also the opportunity to review the past 1 year goals and measure performance accordingly, and also to revise the 1 year goals for the following year. We recommend, like we did last year, to establish a permitted interaction group to allow for the review. And I think it's the suggestion that, maybe we have one member from each district, so one from Kalailo, one from Kakako, and then one from Heia, and then maybe two at-large members, keeping it maybe to suggestion to 5, just for ease of scheduling meetings. And what we are looking at is establishing this in an April meeting, conducting, meetings either virtually or in person to review performance. And then in May, doing the second report out, and then in June, doing the final report action adoption, and then dissolution of the pig and adopting the new strategic plan. And I think by June, we'll have a pretty good idea of the items that have come through on the state budget, and then we'll use that to form the 1 year goals. Chair.
Thank you. And of course, if there's additional individuals who would like to participate in the pig, we're not limiting it to 5. However, it was just a recommendation for overall ease in setting up the meetings and so forth. Let the record reflect that member Blystone has joined the meeting at 9:07. So is there any questions or comments in regards to the pig or what we're looking to establish here in the decision-making process?
Chairman, can you go over the names of the pig from last year?
Good question, Member Leong. I believe that Chair was on it. I think Vice Chair was on it as well. I think Member Sakota, I think Member Ray, and then probably, I think yourself or Punahe was Member Light was on it. That's what I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe at this time, Chair, maybe we can get volunteers to.
Yeah, so at this time, who would like to volunteer to participate on the pig? Again, it would be great to have representation from each area if possible.
Vice Chair Higa volunteers.
Thank you, Vice Chair Higa.
I'll volunteer as well, Kevin Sakota.
Thank you, Member.
Thank you, Member Sakota.
I'll volunteer for Heia, but let me provide a proviso. I am undergoing double knee surgery in April, so I may be in and out for one of the meetings. But it's knee surgery, it isn't anything else, so I'm happy to be available.
Thank you, Member.
Thank you, Member Leong. Hope the surgery goes well. Any other members that would like to participate?
Chair as well.
I would like to participate as well. And again, it would be to not only to do the annual performance report review for Executive Director Nakamoto, but also to relook at our strategic plan and update, especially the 1 year. I'm sorry, did I?
Was there a question?
Was there a question?
Chair, may I suggest, in Member Ray's absence, volunteering, Member Ray?
See, when you're not part of the meeting, that's what happens. All right, so is there a motion for the board to establish pursuant to section 92-2.5B1, or revised statutes, a permitted interaction group for the purpose of one, conducting the executive director's annual performance review, and two, establishing the
moved.
executive director's 1, 3, and 5-year goals, and accordingly amend the agency's strategic plan adopting by the authority at the September 6, 2023 General Authority meeting.
I think I heard member.
I heard
I think I heard member Leo.
Member Lee, I'll move.
Seconded by
Yes.
Vice Chair Higa.
Is there any other further discussions on this motion? If not, Craig, can you take the roll call?
Yes. So on the motion, Chair, that was made by member Leong and seconded by Vice Chair Higa. Member Leong,
Yes,
member Higa,
Yes.
Chair Ishii,
Yes.
Secretary Apo,
Yes.
member Miranda Johnson,
Yes.
member Anderson,
Yes.
member Straits,
Yes.
member Blystone,
Yes.
member Evans,
Yes.
member Tsuji's excused. Member Sakota,
Yes.
okay, Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is information and discussion. The legislative update on the following measures. SB 3381, SD2 relating to Lahaina. Second, HB 1781, HD2 relating to the Hawaii Community Development District, Panaewa, Hilo, Hawaii. Item number 3, HB 2361, HD1, SB 3050, SD2 relating to Hawaii Community Development Authority, interagency assistance. Item number 4, HB 1800, HD1 relating to the state budget, operations and capital improvement projects for Iwale Kapalama, West Oahu, Kailailoa, Saratoga Road, and Heia. And item number 5, HB 2776 relating to the capital improvement projects for the benefit of the first representative district, Waiakea Peninsula. You know, before we start, I do want to thank the HCDA staff and Executive Director Nakamoto for the legislative session. I know it was one that was very exciting and one that was quite, I would say robust in different elements that were going on throughout the session. But I do say that from the feedback I received, they did an excellent job in representing HCDA, and I think it went really well for the organization and the authority in general. And glad to see that the Craig, Director Nakamoto will be giving us an update right now to kind of go through some highlights and also some of the things that were taken off as far as the prospective measures. So
Thank you, Chair, for those really kind words. You know, just to reiterate that, you know, the legislative session really takes a team effort, and we were really fortunate to have really the whole agency helping in it. Even in relatively small ways, you know, we would get rides to the Capitol, taken to the Capitol by the ASO staff, the administrative assistants helped so much. And then, you know, especially Francine, Garrett, and Ryan helped out, you know, tremendously, you know, with meetings at the Capitol. And then I'll kind of get into it with some of these bills, how they really especially helped. So Senate Bill 3381 relating to Lahaina is the so-called Lele Community District Bill. So this is one where HCDA was given the district, which comprised of the 29 Aupua and the Moko of Lahaina as a community development district. I want to first off really, you know, thank Director Blystone and then just thank the Maui County administration for, you know, the calls I had with them on this bill. And, you know, just to get their feedback. So this bill, it passed the Senate, but it didn't get heard in, it will not get heard in the House. So effectively, you know, it is, I think, dead at this point. But despite that, I mean, there was, I think, a lot of lessons learned in this. Ryan, Garrett, myself and Francine, we spent two days on Maui, attending community meetings. One was at the Kaku, studios, in a film session. We spent time, at the legislature talking to people about this. And I think we learned a lot about what we can do in the community. We learned, I think, a little bit about community outreach, more about it. And, I think we were tested on this bill, and despite the bill not passing, I think we really learned a lot of what we can do in community outreach, what we can do in the community. And despite the opposition, I think we all, handled those community meetings really well. And I think we're well received on Maui, despite the disagreement on certain points of the bill. And again, I want to thank Maui County, the administration, and Director Blystone. And I know we'll be working with her in the near future on Puleunui matters. So again, want to thank her, but and then thank the legislature for their confidence in us to give us this opportunity to be the lead on this bill. HB 1781 proposed to give us the Panaeva district in Hilo. There was another bill that proposed to give us the district in Kona. That didn't move very early on. The Panaeva bill, I actually thought it was going to move a little bit, and it did. But in the Senate subject matter committee, Chair Inouye decided to defer this matter. I think it'll be heard. I think this idea will be probably floated next session. And it was brought out that at the committee hearing by chair that there's an idea to relocate the Hilo jail to the lands on in the Panaeva district. So I think the idea will come up again, but again, this bill is probably not going to move. House Bill 2361 and Senate Bill 3050, both are administration bills that would clarify our ability to do and assist government and county agencies. This was really essential, I think, to our strategic plan and the direction that this agency is going. SB 3050, the House chose not to hear that on the House side. It passed the Senate. House Bill 2361, it passed subject matter committee, water and land, and it's with Ways and Means and Judiciary. And it should be, hopefully it's going to be posted for a schedule for a hearing today. It's going to be noticed today for a hearing on Friday. I don't see any reason why this shouldn't be heard by WAM and Judiciary. I'll skip the HB 1800 for a minute and skip
Question.
to sorry, yeah.
What is the House objection to the bill?
So it wasn't so the House decided not to hear Senate Bill 3050 because they saw that the companion bill HB 2361 was already moving. So just, I guess, in economy of legislation, they didn't want to hold it. HB 2361, though, is moving in the Senate, and it passed water and land, and it's just with Ways and Means and Judiciary right now. I don't see any reason why Ways and Means and Judiciary shouldn't hear it. We've been in touch with the committee clerk, and we've urged them to hear it. So I'm not anticipating they're not going to hear it, but today is the deadline for noticing the hearing. Member Paul, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Like I said, I'll skip HB 1800 because that's going to be a little involved. HB 2776 was Representative Nakashima's CIP bill, and in that bill, he inserted $1 million for HCDA to do master planning and infrastructure planning for the Waiakea Peninsula, the Banyan Drive. Now, this was a follow-up to the work that we did with DLNR to assist them to do a feasibility and market study. Unfortunately, that capital improvement project proposal or idea did not make it into the state budget. So that is off the table. Okay.
For the let the record show, member Ray has joined the meeting at 9:20.
Good morning, Member Ray. We're just going over the legislative update. So for the state budget, the SD one was posted recently. And I'll cover it in two parts. First, on the operating budget, our operating budget is intact, is sufficient. We did get two positions in the budget. And this was, through the efforts of, Senator Moriwaki. And so we have two positions, program specialist, 5 positions, which positions I think will really help the workforce, workforce resources and capacity for us to do additional work. And I really think it's a recognition by the legislature that the legislature is tasking us to do different things, a lot of things. So they recognize that I think we need the resource help. But keep in mind that these are just Senate drafts. It's in the Senate draft, and of course, the bill has to go through conference. So what ends up in conference is unknown. So then I'll go to the CIP budget. I'll kind of break it down by districts and subject matter. So for Member Leong and the He'ia district, the $1 million for the construction of a road, access road into the He'ia district from Alaloa Street is in the budget. One is still in the budget at $1 million. And that I think that's great for the He'ia district because it's something that Kako Evie and Kaneko Schultz have been, asking for. So that's in the budget. Let me go to Kaka'ako next. So for Kaka'ako, the repair of the Kewalo Basin Harbor, especially the wharf side, which we own, and then the bulkhead side, which is owned by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, has been a long-standing issue. I mean, I think we've gone to the legislature last couple of sessions to try to get money to repair it. I think, to repair both the bulkhead, which is OHA-owned, and the wharf is probably going to be in excess of $100 million to repair, excess of $100 million, okay? And we've tried to get this done based on a kind of public safety messaging, like public safety is in need of repairs, but we could never get that money. This year, instead of trying that same messaging, what we've done is to work with OHA and try to approach this jointly. And not from a public safety perspective, but from an economic development one. And here's the way we look at it. There is a emerging technology called Regent Sea Glider. It's an initiative by a Rhode Island startup company to develop a 100% sustainable electric vessel that could do intra-island and inter-island travel. And we are talking with them about using Kewalo Basin as a terminal, and where they would dock on that old Fisherman's Wharf harbor side, and then possibly having a terminal on the OHA land side. And that could open up commerce between the islands. There could be cargo, agricultural products. There could be inter-island travel, people wanting to come for their medical visits, medical appointments, coming to JABSUM, to Cancer Research Center, as well as bringing more people to the urban core of Honolulu. And because these vessels are not FAA regulated, they're regulated by the Coast Guard, people would be able to, kind of get on these vessels without a lot of the same FAA and TSA screening. So right now, Regent is in sort of full-scale testing of their model. There is strong interest by some of the airlines in this vessel. We understand that there's some firm orders, placed, And I want to thank, Ryan, Tam, for bringing this idea really to me, and then looking at it as not just economic development, but an alternative means of transportation, inter-island and intra-island, and as a resiliency kind of approach to this. I think it's being well received by a lot of people. So what we did was we asked Senator to put in $20 million for plan and design. And we hope that this will catalyze and be sort of matching for other federal funds that we can get, or other kinds of matching funds, like a 20% match for this. It's a start, and OHA is very much supportive of this.
Question,
Yes, Member Paul.
is this the Fisherman's Wharf area?
It is, Member
It
Paul,
is the
yeah.
Wow,
It
interesting.
is. It is. And I apologize for not having, really formally brought this to the board, but all the discussions have been preliminary right now, and, it just, sort of ideas. The important part was to kind of get get something in the budget for repairs or plan and design. And then use it as a catalyst to get other funds. I'll talk about another source of funds for this as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Paul. The other Kakako CIP request that's in the budget is we have Pacific Gateway Center, Nakapuna Makamai Center. It is the old historic pump station. The roof and other parts of the building really need repairs and maintenance. So Senator has put in $2 million to repair the roof and other structures there to mitigate some of the leaking that is occurring there. The other Kakako possible CIP item is last year Act 221 was passed. It is the bill that would require climate change adaptation for Kakako and Kalai law, and would not require rulemaking, but we are going to engage in rulemaking for Kakako and Kalai law. And so there is $1 million in the budget to do rulemaking for Kakako and Kalai law. The other one for Kakako is in the past, we've talked about kupuna shed and or what was formerly known as men shed, and the idea that we should try to build a facility in Kakako for a permanent place for them. Right now, they moved from the Department of Transportation Harbors area, and thanks again to Member Miranda Johnson and DOT, they help with the relocation, they help with moving. So they're now in a temporary rental space on Lana Lane. But we are looking to plan, design, and construct a permanent facility for them. That's really gonna, I think, provide a community resource for the district, kupuna and otherwise, men and women. So that appropriation is $6 million for plan, design, and construction. The final Kakako CIP item is something that is really supported by Senator and others, and it's a supportive housing project in Kakako. And supportive housing, I'm learning a little bit about this too, but the idea is to, have housing for kupuna and others, at a lower sort of rent, and then have wrap around services, social services, and other things. And I think this is really needed in the community for houseless, individuals and for others. And Senator firmly believes in this, that this is needed. And so she has included in $50 million for plan, design, and land acquisition for supportive housing project in Kakako. For TOD, for transit oriented
So
development.
sorry,
Oh,
so
sorry,
Craig,
okay.
so has there been a location kind of earmarked, or have you guys looked at certain locations as far as the supportive housing is concerned?
Senator, called me about that and asked me, if I had a, sort of a parcel and identified for it, and I told her at the time, this was a couple weeks ago, that I did not. But through Lindsay's efforts, asset management, we are looking at a possible site, near here that could be used for this kind of supportive housing. We're gonna meet with the broker this week and kind of talk about it. It's a parcel that's for sale. It also has the benefit of being very close to a planned rail station in Kakako. So I think there's possibility. I think we have to work on finding the ideal site, and maybe we can even do adaptive reuse for this. But I'm really excited about the possibility of adding another kind of housing in Kakako. Thank you, Chair. Now for TOD, so for TOD, we were given, we had asked for $10 million for Iwilei Kapalama to kind of continue the work that was being done by HHFDC and OPSD. As Tim, member of Stripes is aware, we have money right now, and we're gonna work 25 million to do electrical upgrades in Iwilei Kapalama. That money has been released already. RFP is in process and close to awarding. But we had asked for 10 million additional dollars to kind of do additional plan and design for infrastructure improvements, and what we were focusing on is maybe drainage improvements. And again, I want to thank Mark and his team for all the work they've done on these TOD capital improvement projects. A lot of great work to get us to this point where we're going to close to encumbering these monies, which will lapse at the end of June. But it looks like we're going to encumber. So we didn't get the 10 million for Iwilei Kapalama, but we got 25 million in the budget for phase 2 of the UH West Oahu road and infrastructure improvement. Members may remember that we had released to us 35 million, and we are again in the procurement process, and we are reviewing proposals right now. We are finalizing an MOU between UH, HHFDC, and HCDA to jointly work on a collaborative housing agreement whereby UH would provide their land. I think it's 20 acres, parcels 3 and 4. HHFDC will issue an RFP for housing as a University Village project and other kinds of housing on the other lot. And we, HCDA, will provide or develop the road and infrastructure to service those, facilitate the development on parcels 3 and 4. So this 25 million, if it holds, we would do phase 2 of this, which is to extend that road further Makai along Kualakai Parkway near the Keonei station, which I think has received good legislative support. Next on the TOD/Kalailo, we had tried the budget and finance tried to convert 12.125 that was in cash and 4.5 that was in cash to GeoBond. So that was in the governor's administrative budget. Unfortunately, we just got 12.125 for electrical upgrades, not the 4.5, but we're gonna work with that and target Saratoga because it's one of the main commercial strands in Kalailo for electrical upgrades. In addition, Ryan and his team are finalizing an RFP to use the 500,000 in cash that was released to us to do an update of our infrastructure master plan for Kalailo, which is really needed. electrical, hopefully drainage, and water and maybe roadways. So Ryan and his team are working on that, right now. The other TOD, funds that we got, was, and I have to get a little more, details on this one, but it's, 500,000 to, develop plans for the Lihui Transit-Oriented Development Infrastructure Master Plan on Kauai, 500,000. Oh, and then, yeah, I think that's it. That was all of it. So anyway, that's all of it. It's still subject to going to conference, and I think, but we're gonna advocate for these. I'm, very grateful for the Senate to, include all of these in. Again, just a group effort from, the staff to advocate for these things and then to, help at the legislature. So again, very thankful for that.
It's a lot, but questions, comments? For Executive Director Nakamoto?
I have a question for Craig.
I remember
You know,
supporting.
Hi there. Just listening to your comments on all this, it seems like there's a lot of infrastructure issues. Is it your kind of perception that there's coming from the legislature that there is the need or the urgency to address infrastructure issues?
Yeah, it's a good question, Member Sakota, and I'm gonna also kind of lean on Member Evans from her OPSD and TOD Interagency Council perspective. I think if I kind of recall the reports that have been done in the past, one, I think the state and the governor's goal is to build more affordable housing. That's one.
Yeah.
Two, I think we've identified that the most sensible places to grow and develop housing is near transit stations, right, along the transit routes, higher density and all that. And I think there's the land available. We were at a Senate committee hearing, and we had noted that OPSD has already mapped and categorized almost like 4,000 parcels, right, along the TOD line that possibly available for development. 4,000 acres. I think it was 4,000 acres. Anyway, a lot of land that's available, right? So I don't think, it's the lack of land or supply of land, but really, I think it's really the lack of sufficient infrastructure to support that growth. And that to me, and that has been recognized, I think, as the number one impediment to growth along the rail, route, and then to develop more housing. But Member Evans,
Yes, Craig's right. The Office of Planning and Sustainable Development did a fairly large project with the TOD Council, the city and county as well. And the number one barrier to adding affordable housing along the rail line on Oahu and on the neighbor islands is infrastructure capacity, Member Sakota. So we're really pleased that the legislature is recognizing that need and starting to address it as and when they can. Because we have a saying, infrastructure unlocks housing. And that doesn't always have to be all affordable, but the areas along the rail line will tend to be affordable, especially if they're on state and county property where we can't sell the land. So these will end up being either rental or leasehold. And so that'll keep the, I think the affordability a little bit better. These are areas where local families want to live, workforce housing rather than resort housing. Thank you.
thank you, Member Evans. And Member Sakota, if I can just add to that too. sort of your question kind of suggests kind of legislative direction. And if I can touch on that for a little bit, Chair, for a minute or two. You know, in the 2022 legislative session, the legislature established the TOD Infrastructure Development Program under HCDA. It's separate from the, you know, the HCDA boards. And at that time, you know, I don't know if I fully realized, you know, what that meant from a bigger context, and framework. But since then, what I realized, I think, is this is part of either accidentally or intentionally, but the framework for affordable housing and, you know, infrastructure development really is OPSD that help, you know, does the planning. And then there's HHFDC that does the financing, you know, for it. The third is the TOD Interagency Council, which prioritizes projects, you know, and TOD projects. And then lastly, at least for projects that the legislature gives us money to do, HCDA to implement it. And I think, you know, that is sort of the rough framework, the way I look at it. I don't remember, Evans, I don't know if you had.
Well, I wouldn't put HCDA last. And I think HCDA brings in the community perspective in a way that is absolutely necessary to move forward. Because without that community perspective, which the community development districts has created an avenue to gather that input. City also has a very strong community engagement process for their TOD zoning. I want to acknowledge that, so Member Strides doesn't feel, but Member Strides is also a member of the TOD Council. So it's a way of pulling together partnerships, and HCDA is a critical part of that. Office of Planning and Sustainable Development does not do, we don't build. And it's important that you go past planning to building to get the end result we want. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Urban. Member Sakota, sorry. Oh,
No, so I had a question on that, Member Evans, and maybe either Executive Director Nakamoto. I guess my question is, how does it tie in? You know, I've always looked at ACDA as sort of putting together these master plans once the infrastructure, I mean, you have to put the master plans together first, and then you build the infrastructure, right, accordingly and so forth. But so how does that work between OPSD and HCDA in really formulating those community master plans? That's the part where I'm still a little kind of confused on.
I think the planning is different, Chair. So we're looking at needs and identifying gaps. What HCDA does is they update their district EISs. They do programmatic EISs. That's necessary step, but the Office of Planning doesn't do that. Then they, you know, adopt rules for their districts. The Office of Planning doesn't do that. And then they start the planning for individual parcels with proposals from landowners. That's also not something that the Office of Planning does. So I see, you know, two different roles, both helpful to get, you know, awareness of where the gaps are, but not overlapping or duplicative at all. Does that answer your question, Chair?
Yes, thank you.
And I would also add, as it relates to the TOD Infrastructure Development Program within HCDA, the way it's structured right now, and it could change, but the way it's structured right now, each of those areas around the TOD stations are itself sort of like a district or the countywide. So within those districts, TOD districts, what Member Evans is saying is that, I mean, we could develop a master plan, infrastructure plan for those TOD districts. So that's where I think we could fit in as well. But I think, you know, the other part of infrastructure development is infrastructure financing. And that's something that I know OPSD has been working with their consultant HRA and others and trying to, and finalizing that or have finalized the, plan for infrastructure financing, because without that steady and consistent infrastructure financing money, it's gonna be hard to do it, going to the legislature and getting money for infrastructure is challenging.
Yeah, that traditional way of the state and counties build infrastructure is bond financing. But there are limits to what that can do, and it also can be a boom or bust kind of feast or famine kind of situation where sometimes there's room under the bond cap to finance a project and the legislature agrees, but other times that isn't possible. So the financing study that the TOD Council undertook was to look for as many different sources of financing for infrastructure. Some of them are, tougher than others, to get buy-in, but we thought it was important to look for those other sources of funding. Other jurisdictions across the country have been successful with different financing strategies. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member.
Thank you.
Member Sakota, sorry, that was a long answer to your question. I hope there was something that answered your question in that long answer. If not, I can take another stab at it.
Well, the reason I'm asking is I think we agreed the last HCDA strategy session that infrastructure would be something that the HCDA pushed and said we have an expertise in infrastructure development. So what I'm trying to do is link that to sort of how the funding of the HCDA or the funding that HCDA gets allocated through the legislature. So whether that's getting through to not to replace some of these other government agencies, but to be a kind of a facilitator to fill in the gaps and get stuff done.
Yeah, I think that's what that's what Member Evans kind of touched on a little bit too. I think with that financing study, they're trying to identify different ways to finance infrastructure other than going to the traditional way of going to the legislature. Later on in the agenda, I'll talk about another way we're trying to tap into funds for infrastructure development. But it is a good question. I think the funding from the legislature is not as consistent as it needs to be. And I also wonder, if you have a more consistent source of funding, like for example, like an incremental GT increase or something, as an example, that the funding would be more equitable across, different areas versus, if it's legislative funding, it could go to a certain district or certain, so I think that's going to be the key to infrastructure development and the development of housing. It's not, I don't think it's the availability of land so much. And then Member Sakota, one thing that dovetails into that is what we've been doing with the 99-year leasehold pilot program. So we're still working on that as a way to develop, affordable housing in TOD areas and other areas. But we're still working on it, kind of hit a little bit of a snag with the procurement. It's not a snag. We went out for developers to determine interest, but unfortunately there wasn't any interest in it. So we're trying a plan B, alternative procurement for that, but we're still working on it. We're gonna sit down with Senator Chang and kind of update him a little bit on that. Member Sakota.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's good for us for the PIG because it gives us a good idea where we need to look at for the 3-year, not just the 1 year.
Yes.
Because it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking here at infrastructure, then we can start looking at master plans and building affordable housing. So it's gonna be a timeline that we gotta work on.
Yes.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to positively acknowledge some of the thinking that went into the Cavallo CIP money and how you're, leveraging resources to look at, a broader picture through the master planning and how other things might fit into the area, making it, unique through like, the plains. And I think, in light of that and kind of already that expanded focus from just the bulwark or the siding, whatever it's
Yeah.
called. If that master planning does show kind of the usefulness or high potential for, like economic delivery throughout Kaka'ako with, incorporating those kind of planes, I think that might potentially evolve into something bigger, perhaps in partnership with like DOT or some other state agency to look at the other ends of the connections. And in light of, how the legislature had approached HCDA about the Lele area and your significant outreach already in the community, that might be something that gets looked at in the future to kind of jumpstart the economy in that area. And I don't speak for Maui, but it could be considered as, part of the early discussions and thoughts of, just, through master planning, that stuff all comes to light, whether, that's something the community accepts and the viability and so forth. But it might, just kind of looking through in the broader picture, how that might all interconnect.
Yeah, so, thank you, Member Straits. And, I would note that the other day we were on a meeting, yesterday we were on a meeting with the Hawaii Sea Glider Initiative, it's a kind of a consortium. And one thing they noted, you mentioned Maui, but, I think they noted in their studies that the most sort of flights kind of coming and going are from Honolulu to Kahului and Kahului to Honolulu. That is the, sort of most used sort of route. And so that's what I think the Sea Glider Initiative is kind of focusing on is that. I think the second most used route, I think, or popular route is Honolulu to Lihui, Kauai, and Kauai back. And once if that, and I mentioned this with Director Blystone, but also, unlocking that could also provide service from Maui to Lanai, Maui to Molokai as well. And so I think we look at this as really a hub, and I'll kind of jump if
Sure.
At your.
Unless there's any other questions or comments, we'll have Director Nakamura move forward. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna jump to the executive director's report and.
Oh, let me check if there's public testimony.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Is there any public testimony? No? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. Let me jump to the executive director report. So that's contained in tab 4 of your packet. And I just wanted to kind of jump to this item too, and the rest of it, you can look at it, it's summarized there. But one of the things, and this goes to, I think, Member Straits' comment too, is one of the 1-year goals in the strategic plan is for the agency to look at stabilizing the agency's year-over-year funding, i.e. general fund versus special fund. And part of that is it says to look for opportunities to leverage federal funds through state matching funds and or seek grant opportunities for projects. I think this goes to the notion that, we can't always lean on the legislature for all of this infrastructure funding. It's just not consistent. And it's not a negative. I think it's just a reality. And I'm not, again, I'm not looking at all the capital improvement projects that we got given to us in the budget. And I'm not, ungrateful for that. It's just that it is inconsistent. So one of the things that we did is because of that direction to seek other funds. In the report of the executive director, I've noted that we have put in a request to Senator Hirono's office for congressionally directed spending requests for the Pulehunui district. Now, for the Pulehunui district, if you recall, we're tasked with building infrastructure primarily to support the DHHL development there, which is land outside the district, and also DLNR's proposed developments in the district, and to possibly support the relocation of the Maui jail to there, right? Because the Maui jail, the residential areas have kind of grown up around the jail. The second is possibly to build a judiciary complex near the Maui jail to facilitate pretrial detainees going from jail to court appearances, right? You know, one of the biggest challenges in any development, and especially on Maui, is water and the water sourcing, the water source development. And that's something DLNR is looking at right now. They have some funds to go out and do a procurement to do a test well. But water source development on Maui is critical. And then for development, you know, it's more critical. As Mark always tells me, I mean, you can put sewer pipes in, you can put electrical in, but you can't make up water. I mean, you can't just develop, you gotta find the source. So one of the things that we're looking at is, you know, trying to pull all the water levers we can in Pulehunui, using brackish water, using other kinds of sources of water. And so one of those strategies is try to use R1, reclaimed water as a way to use it for irrigation and to use it for fire suppression. If we can develop that R1 source, then it'll lessen our dependency on potable water. And I think that'll help with the development and also help community-wise. If we can say we're trying to use R1 water to reduce the demand for potable water. So we put in a request to Senator Hirono's office for $3 million to be used for the planning and design of a wastewater reclamation facility, R1 facility in the Pulehunui district. And this is something that was supported by the main proponent of the Pulehunui district to try to get that, one, we got to get a wastewater facility built. The county is, I think, on point for that, but also a waste R1. So that request is in. We've gotten support from key Maui legislators, and that their letters of support are in with Senator Hirono's office. I think it's a step in the right direction to try to leverage these funds and to, I think, show the legislature that we're trying to get other funding sources besides this. Now, this is small, it's only $3 million, but I think it's a step. Kara Kimura in Mark Kakota's department, Charlene Antai, they're on task for trying to get these kind of funds and through grants or otherwise. And Kara did a really great job on this request and another request that I'll cover in the Kaka'ako side, but they've really done a good job. And again, it's our way of, trying to fulfill our direction in the strategic plan to get other sources of funding. And I think Mark and I have a call set up with Director Blystone in the next couple of weeks, I think, to talk about Pulehunui, the development. We don't have to talk about Lele anymore, that bill, but we do have to talk about Pulehunui. So we're looking forward to that call, Director Blystone. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the executive director's report? Anything further, Craig, on that, on the report?
No.
Is there any public testimony? No. If not, thank you for those who have joined us on Zoom or in person. That concludes our business for today, and the meeting is now adjourned, and the time is 10 o'clock. Thank you.